In today's show, it is rumor season in the NBA. It's draft week, and there's a whole bunch of nonsense out there. Let's sort through it. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, it's a rumor season. We made it to draft week. You're listening to Tuesday, June 25th show. And we are days away, in fact, a day away from the NBA draft on Wednesday evening and then again on Thursday. 2 days of first and second round, 2 days of the draft this year. But this week, like when you get to draft week, is the most... It's always lying season this time of year, and this is like the most aggressive and most stupid version of lying season because this is when this is when all of the rumors get turned up to 10, and then the interpretation of these rumors gets turned down to negative 15. People's media literacy really starts to struggle, and you also just you hear the smoke screens getting the thickest. You see them getting the thickest. So I want to sort through some rumors today. Some of them are just it's kind of easy to pinpoint what's going on. Others not so much, and I'll try to help you with a little bit of media literacy. Then on to talk latest mock drafts. There's some week of mock drafts, including one from ESPN that I think there's at least just a name worth noting. And then, as promised in today's show, my picks. Y'all have been wondering who I would pick. I'll share my who are my huckleberries in the lottery, and including more than one name, names at each pick, and then a couple options for how I would go about it at each pick. That's what we'll do. That's what we will do in today's show. Let's start with the nonsense, the rumors, the smoke screens, and quite frankly, what you're here for. Because if you're on YouTube, you saw Blazers draft rumors in the title, and you said, "Gimme." And if you are listening on the audio feed, maybe you were skipping around. Oh, listen to this one. Oh, rumors, gimme. So I'll give it to you. Ian Begley of SNNY reports several teams, including the Dallas Mavericks, have checked in on Jerami Grant's situation in Portland. Checked in on is a wonderful euphemism. You know what checked in on means? Hey, what's up, Joe? Is Jerami Grant available? He could be. Okay, thanks. Click. It doesn't take a super genius to realize that Jerami Grant could have potentially be traded by the Blazers, and NBA front offices have the same, much more, but they have about the same level. They can follow the logic the way we can. In fact, at the trade deadline, on this very podcast, I got together with Nick Angstad of Locked On Mavs, even before the trade deadline, like in earlier February, maybe late January rather. Got together with Nick Angstad of Locked On Mavs, and we did an episode talking about Jerami Grant getting traded to the Dallas Mavericks because it just makes so much sense, right? The Blazers are young. Jerami Grant is, the second oldest player on the roster. He's probably, although he's under contract, he's probably not going to be around when they're really good again, or he would have to stick around for deeper into the contract to be around when they're actually competitive again. He would help a good team because of what he does. He's shot north of 40% from three from each of the last 2 years, and would have been looked much more durable if he hadn't been shut down with fake injuries at the end of the last couple seasons. Doesn't really play in April, but I think if he was on a good team, he would play in April. And then you watch the Mavs play, and they could just use one more dude who could kind of dribble and get his own shot. That's a thing that they're missing. Jerami Grant is a competent enough defender, particularly on a good defensive team like Dallas. I think he would look fine. He can shoot it as an off-ball guy, and he has some individual offensive creation stuff. He would really obviously help the Mavs. A deal for the Mavericks would probably center around Tim Hardaway Jr.'s money, Josh Green, and then some other cash to make it work. It's not a clean fit. It's not a clean trade for the Blazers, but I think it's something in that range. Speaking of that range, Jake Fisher of Yahoo Sports reports that Jerami Grant, a client of Clutch Sports CEO Rich Paul, is believed to be another potential addition to the Lakers' wish list, according to sources. That particular quote has been misattributed. what I have seen on the sort of, I think I saw this, I think it was just like a Reddit headline, but it's like the Lakers want to trade 17 for, it could have been a tweet that became a Reddit headline, double aggregation, that the Blazers want to trade 17 for Jerami Grant. It's not really what Jake Fisher is reporting. What Jake Fisher is reporting is that the Lakers are interested in trading this number 17 pick in the NBA draft, and they have a couple teams that they've reached out to and a couple targets that they would try to use 17 to acquire, and they've also checked in on Jerami Grant. Not specifically that they were trying to trade 17 for Jerami Grant. It seems very unlikely that the Blazers would want a 5th pick in the 2024 NBA draft. Just use your brain. They do not need a 5th pick. They do not need a first round pick in this particular draft. They need future draft capital. To make it work, it's pretty easy for the Lakers. Rui Hachimura and Gabe Vincent's money makes it work. Is Rui Hachimura, Gabe Vincent, and a draft pick enough for Jerami Grant? It's close. A second draft pick is probably too much for Jerami Grant. So you're right in the middle, right? Like 2 firsts for Jerami Grant is too much, but 1 first in that package isn't enough. So it doesn't work. There is a world in which Jerami Grant gets traded to the Lakers this summer because they do trade the Blazers 17 and they do trade him Hachimura and Vincent, but the Blazers already have another trade involved in which 17 and 14 are being packaged together to move up, right? And then that's that kind of construction. But I think what Fisher is actually reporting, and this is sort of the media literacy here, is like read the source material and then think about how it works, and then you can look up the information on what draft picks are available to trade, and each team's salary cap situation is available online, all available to you. I don't know. I much like you, dear listener, I have access to the internet. One of the most important lessons I learned as a young reporter trying to make it in the game, I asked someone, they worked at ESPN. I said, now you work at ESPN? You got some kind of fancy database? And they said, dude, I use Google. So do I. I use Google. That's where I start too. That's where I was able to figure out that the Lakers don't even really have draft picks to trade because they owe a swap next year in New Orleans that New Orleans can exercise, and then they owe a protected pick in 2027 to the Jazz. So it's like they don't, because of those light protections on those future picks or those protections of the future picks, they can't really just like trade picks out. I think it would start in 2029 where they could trade a pick out. But I think there's a world in which that happens. I don't think it's likely. I think what this means from Begley of SNY and from Fisher of Yahoo Sports is like, teams are calling because Jerami Grant is obviously someone who the Blazers should consider trading, and they should consider the market, and the Blazers are answering the phones because of exactly that. Does it mean Jerami Grant's going to get traded? No, he might, but like this is just very obvious connecting the dots to say teams are calling about a veteran who would help good teams win because he's a pretty good basketball player, and they're trying to figure out what the market is to acquire that veteran so they can make their plans for the summer. And then the Mavs and the Lakers are teams that have checked in with the Blazers, and by checked in, I mean, hey, can we get him? Yeah, if you get the right price, okay. And the right price isn't like, hey, let's talk specific thing. It's like, what do the Blazers want? They'll say what they want. We want future draft capital and with not a lot of onerous future money. Okay, we'll see what we can put together. We'll call you back. That's a check-in. See ya. The other piece of juicy rumor out there is this following paragraph from The Ringer's Kevin O'Connor, and I'm going to read it to you quickly. The Blazers also worked out Purdue center Zach Edey earlier in the month, and people around the NBA believe that they are also extremely high on him, not just for the 14th pick, but for their first choice at number 7. Whoa. O'Connor continues. The bottom line is that the Blazers seem to be looking to come away with a center to pair with Scoot Henderson and their other young pieces, and if Portland ends up with Donovan Clingan, Zach Edey, or another center on Wednesday night, then perhaps there will be a domino effect this summer with DeAndre Ayton and Robert Williams III trades to follow. Okay, there's so much to unpack with this, and I'm going to try to do it quickly. One, I don't believe that. I do not believe that the Blazers are going to draft Zach Edey at 7. They could. Anything's possible. That's the thing about it. Anything is possible. I remember Anthony Bennett, and Zach Edey is about a cajillion times better than Anthony Bennett. I'm not a big Edey guy. I think if you're listening to this podcast, you know I'm not a big Edey guy. I think he's going to be an effective player in the certain situations at a minimum, and I also think he's going to be an effective player in certain situations at a maximum. I think he has a relatively relatively narrow range. of what he's going to do, and I'm not sure that that's worth the 7th pick in the draft. I think it would be very surprising if the Blazers did that. It doesn't fit their MO. It doesn't make sense. The reason that you would say this, the reason that we'd be out here, this is like media literacy, and I don't like unpacking this, but I'm going to do it for you, dear listener. Say Zach Edey has a little bit of interest at picks between picks 8 and 13. You say, the Blazers, don't wait around because he's gone at 14 because the Blazers like him, but they might even pick him up at 7. So if they don't pick him up at 7, you better go. You better go. You better go. And it is sort of the Oklahoma City bait, right? It is. This rumor seems to be. It's not definitely that's how it works, but the reason why it would be, the logic why it would be, is because to drum up interest higher in the lottery for Zach Edey. I don't buy it for the Blazers. It could happen though. It's not impossible. It's definitely impossible for sure for my real millennials out there. The last sentence though from the Ringer, and there's a whole couple paragraphs I didn't read this about Blazers' interest in Donovan Clingan. We've talked about that bunch on the show. They're very clearly interested in Donovan Clingan. Whether they'll end up with him or not, they are very interested. They've been linked to trading up for him. ESPN mock has had Clingan going to 7, and a lot of sort of language in the little blurb around the mock about how the Blazers would be thrilled and ecstatic and all these things, and have strong interest in Clingan. Clearly the Blazers have been linked to Clingan. And it hasn't been reported by just ESPN. A couple other outlets have reported the obvious interest in Clingan. That's there. That's real. Or at least it's real that there's interest. It might be not real that they get him, but there's interest. But the last sentence, then perhaps there will be a domino effect this summer with Ayton and Williams trades to follow. I don't buy that either, y'all. I don't buy that. I do not buy that when you draft a Donovan Clingan or a Zach Edey that you immediately have to trade DeAndre Ayton. I think what it means is DeAndre Ayton has this season and next season left on his contract, and maybe the Blazers aren't incredibly sold on paying him and him being a long-term piece, but it doesn't mean he's going to get traded this summer. It means that they might not see him as a larger part of the future, and if they do draft a center at 7, I think that clearly signifies that. But it doesn't mean that DeAndre Ayton's a goner. It means that DeAndre Ayton is probably not part of the big picture solution, or it's that the Blazers couldn't pass on talent and they'll figure it out the rest later. But I think it's the other one. It's that they don't see DeAndre Ayton as being on the team beyond the next 2 seasons, and they will explore how to deal with that in the future, and that future is not July. I really doubt it. And then with the Williams thing, I know there's Rob Williams hasn't played, got surgery in many months ago and is hoping to be back. But I don't think the Blazers can make any plans with the idea that Rob Williams is going to play 55 games or something like that. He's played 41 games the last 2 seasons. He's dealt with a lot of left knee stuff, and now he's getting surgery on his right knee. I just don't think they're making plans with they'll get in the way of Rob Williams. Get in the way of freaking Duop Reith. So I think the Edey at 7 thing is seems just false. I'm not saying the reporting is false. I mean, to be clear, certainly the intel that Kevin O'Connor got is some folks even think the Blazers might draft him at 7. That's different. That I believe that he heard that. I believe he reported the truth that he heard. I just don't buy it. I don't buy that they draft him at 7. Let's talk mock drafts and some other rumor stuff. That's your media literacy 15 minutes to open the show. Hope those rumors satiated you. I'm sure there will be more. It's draft week, lying season. We did it. Okay. Second segment. Let's talk mock drafts and more NBA draft things. Join me in that second segment, won't ya? First, though, I want to tell you about America's number one sportsbook, FanDuel. Look, the NBA's done. The NHL's done. It wrapped up tonight. I watched Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. That's about as much hockey as I watched all year. It was pretty exciting. What a fun sport. But now I can't bet on it because it's done. But guess what? FanDuel's not slowing down. FanDuel's here all summer long. So if you want to get on MLB action, all things baseball, every stinking day of the week, except it's a little light on Mondays and Thursdays for my real baseball fans, or WNBA action deep into the summer, or the NBA draft this week, you're going to find all types of props and whatnot that you're looking for on the FanDuel app. Well, guess what? All summer long, FanDuel customers is hooking all of you, all customers, not just new customers, everybody who's on FanDuel with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most of your summer. That's FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right. Listen. We sorted through the rumors. Now we got to talk mock drafts, which are basically rumors, but in a bulleted list with art. Okay, so long-time listeners know that I think ESPN has pretty strong predictive powers when it comes to the Blazers. It's for obvious reasons. Mike Schmitz and Jonathan Givony at ESPN. Mike Schmitz now with the Blazers, worked together for freaking a decade. I don't think the Blazers just feed ESPN intel, but I think you can get on the phone with someone you trust, exchange some intel here for some intel there, and maybe get a clearer picture of what it might look like while the Blazers also benefit on the back end. Okay, for those of you worried that that ESPN is just like a blog source for the Blazers, everyone benefits. It's like a freaking exchange of information. But on ESPN, Jeremy Wu and Jonathan Givony have the Blazers taking Donovan Clingan at 7 and Jacoby Walter at 14. This has not changed since last week's draft for ESPN. They haven't changed it. This is who they got him pegged for. Clearly, the Blazers are interested in Clingan. I think we've talked about that ad nauseum, including in the first segment of the show. I'll talk about Clingan more when I get to my picks in the third segment. I'm comfortable with him, but I don't love it. Jacoby Walter is an interesting one, and he's the name I think to highlight here. Pretty much no other service has Walter to the Blazers at 14, and he's been a ESPN guy who they've had there at various stages, including each of the last 2 drafts leading up to it. I think that's a name to know. I think that's a name to circle and say, that could be something. There could be a little bit of fire with that smoke, a little bit. I don't love Walter, but I don't know a ton about him. I can't say that I watched him play. I may have seen a portion of a Baylor game at the end of the season when I was trying to watch the Big 12 I think I watched part of a game, but not full games. I watched some highlights and scouting reports on YouTube. He measured at 6'4.25". He's got long arms, 6'10", so not every 6'4" is created the same, but he doesn't have plus length in terms of height. He doesn't have plus height on the wings. And I don't see a strong future where you can start a 6'2" point guard in Scoot and not have plus length at the 3. I think you need someone who's 6'8" and above, because I think you just want to be big, right? If you're going to play somebody who's small, and Scoot he's long and strong, right? He's got long arms, he's strong, but he's always going to be 6'2". And Shaedon Sharpe is quintessential shooting guard size, and I would he could play a little bit of 3, but I think it's been clear last season that he's more suited as a 2 in terms of his physicality on that and at that spot and his length, and maybe he'll grow into being something different, right? But I wouldn't love to pick another wing who's mostly a 2. But Walter is a dude who plays hard on defense and can shoot. The knock on him is maybe that he can't create for himself because he doesn't have a strong enough handle yet. You can improve your handle. But a dude who can shoot it and gets after it on defense. He's not an elite athlete, but long-armed, interested defender who has some offensive skills as a potentially a finisher and as a shooter. I think there's obvious interest why that would be there. He's just, for me, I'm not excited about Walter. I'm not excited about him. At Yahoo Sports, Kristen Peak has the Blazers taking Cody Williams from Colorado, and then at 7, and then Tristan Da Silva from Colorado at 14. It would be a pretty funny draft if they took 2 teammates from the 3rd best team in the Pac-12. It almost worked for the Buffaloes. I'm sure it'll work for the Blazers. I like Da Silva a lot. I think he's an NBA player, and I think he's probably doesn't have that high of an upside because he just doesn't have the physical tools to grow into more. But dude who does everything pretty well is an intrigue at his size is an intriguing get, right? He's not this elite athlete. He's not this elite shot creator, but he can shoot and he can defend and he can rebound a little bit. And he's and he has some, the physicality to probably play a little bit of, to play mostly power forward in the NBA. I like Da Silva a lot. Cody Williams, I'm going to talk about him a bunch, in the next segments, but if it pops, it pops, right? If he hits and he hits on what he can do well, he's the wing you've been searching for. But that's a big one. That is a big and real one. Final mock I'll share with you, Sam Vecini. These are ESPN, Kristen Peak of Yahoo Sports, Sam Vecini are people I entrust implicitly. Vecini and Kristen Peak and Wu and Gavoni do this year-round. They scout year-round. Kristen Peak and the guys at ESPN are in the gyms at EYBL, traveling all over the world to see international prospects. These are people who see the stuff, right? That do this for their jobs year-round. Vecini has the Blazers taking Matas Buzelis at 7. I'm okay with it. I don't love it, but I'm okay with it. And then at 14, he mocks a trade, and the trade is kind of intriguing. The Blazers trade back from 14 to 21 with the Pelicans, and the Blazers, for their troubles, get a 2026 first round pick. I would be all over that if I'm then. And at 21, they take Keyshawn George. If that reality happens on draft night, I love that. I love it. I don't think there's much difference between 14 and 21. Keyshawn George is someone who's been mocked to go as high as the end of the lottery. You used to say, okay, we were going to get him at 14. We can just wait and get our guy at 21, like a big guard from Miami. He's like he's probably a 2, but he's 6'7", so he could certainly grow into a frame and end up being a 3. But like a guy who can create his own shot off the bounce, you get at 21. There's a lot less pressure to sort of nail that pick and a lot less pressure to play that pick, and you can let him develop and let him get there, and you get a future first out of it. I would love that. I would love that mock. That seems like really good business to me. Okay. A lot of you have been asking, maybe not quite double digits, but many have asked in via email who I would pick at 7 and 14, who I'd pick in the lottery. What would I do if I was on the clock for the Blazers? I'm going to tell you. Join me in the third segment. I'll share my picks on draft week, as promised, who I would pick at 7 and 14. Join me in the third segment to close the show. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond. You're still listening to Locked On Blazers. Okay, I'm going to share my picks. Who would I take at 7 and 14? Many of you have asked, and I'm brave enough to share it with you. Okay. My favorite, I agree that the Blazers should probably take a wing. I think that is the sort of commonly held belief. I think they can take any position. It would be weird if they took a little guard, like if they took it would be weird if they took a dude who could only play 1 and 2, but if they take someone who could play 2 and maybe a little bit of 3, I think it's okay. And I use wing kind of interchangeably to mean the middle positions, shooting guard, small forward, and power forward, because I think there's points, there's bigs, and then there's the middle positions. And if you're the middle position with size, you're a 3-4. If you're middle position without size, you're a 2-3. Role is probably more of an accurate way to describe it on offense, role versus position. But who you can guard, like what types of roles you can guard on the other end. Do you need to guard stationary guys, or can you guard shifty guys? That matters. And shifty versus stationary is probably the difference in a 2 and a 3. And physicality, can you guard the more physical wings? Like that's a 4, right? Like the positions are real. We're not totally positionless yet. We're leaning more in that way. But I agree, the Blazers should draft a wing. I totally agree. And if you're at 7, I think in this draft where there are a bunch of wings, I wouldn't be in love with drafting a center. I wouldn't be in love with drafting a single position player. I wouldn't be in love in drafting either of the top centers in this draft, Klingon and Edey, who aren't like super mobile, switchy types, right? They're drop bigs. I think there's value in those, in being just like a big guy who can cover the rim. I watched the Dallas Mavericks play. Like, Derek Lively has some switchability, right? But what made Derek Lively really special was being a drop big who hung around the rim. And like, even when they would play him off the ball, the Mavericks would get creative to always keep him as the low man. What they would do is they would work really hard to not have Derek Lively on the perimeter switching, but have Derek Lively at the rim, because that's where his value was. And I think there's value there in having big players there. But I digress. I think the position of need is a wing. And my favorite wing in this draft is Stephon Castle. The problem is Stephon Castle's people probably think he's a point guard. Stephon Castle's not going to be there at 7. Sounds like he's going to go higher than that. Every mock has him higher. I mean, I haven't seen a single mock draft where he's available to the Blazers at 7, where he would be on the board for the Blazers at 7. If he was, I'd be banging the drum to draft him. He's my favorite wing in the draft. I don't think it's close. Here's why. He does all of the things you want him to do as a wing, right? He can handle a little bit. He's great defensive versatility. He's a good passer. He plays hard. He's a dude who won a lot in college playing a position that was not the thing he was recruited to do. So he's been adaptable, and sounds like he doesn't want to be adaptable. Sounds like he wants to be a ball in his hand guy. He just can't shoot. He's a non-shooter. Shooting is the easiest skill to improve at, right? Like shooting is the skill that you can actually get demonstrably better at. That like guys who are like workers and good players can get up to, maybe they're not going to be above average shooters ever in their career, but they get to like right at below average in the league, right? And they learn to take good threes, and so that everyone shoots 35% because they don't take terrible off the dribble threes. They become smart spacers, smart shooters, and they take good shots. And I think Stephon Castle can become that. And he already ticks the other boxes as a smart playmaker, as a really, really good defender who can defend multiple positions. If he is a point guard, he's got great size. If he is a 2, he's got totally reasonable size. And if he's a 3, he doesn't have plus size to play small forward. And I don't think he could play small forward like in the NBA as a rookie, but I think he's like, you could get away with it, right? To play him as an off-ball position, an off-ball wing. He's not, again, he's not perfect for the Blazers because he's not plus size at small forward size, not spot. And he's a non-shooter. He's not a perfect fit, but he's my favorite pick in the draft. He's my favorite wing in the draft. If he was on the clock at 7, I think the Blazers should take Stephon Castle, and I wouldn't hesitate. I would be very excited about it. I like him. I've done more research within this draft than any other draft, probably than any other draft. At least I don't really count when I was like a teenager. I learned things differently in my 30s than I do in my teens. And if you're listening, you're a teenager, I promise it will happen to you. Steph's not going to be there. Stephon Castle's not going to be there. So what do? Honest to goodness, I think my second favorite player that's likely to be available on the board is Donovan Clingan. And I know I just got into that whole thing about how positional versatility and he's a non-shooter. I don't even know what he's like. I think he can pass, and I think that's really helpful. But it's like, how does he score on offense? Depending on how they guard him, can he become a really good DHO guy and like kind of Kevon Looney it, where he just like, oh yeah, I don't shoot, but I do aircraft carrier, set big screens, and like my guy's sagging in the paint, so I set a big screen and you get a free jumper because of the way they're defending me. Can he like turn into that? Maybe. I worry about what he is on offense and what he can be. Like I don't see it, but I'm pretty comfortable in his defensive floor being an impact player. I'm pretty comfortable in it. Like I think he's going to be fine as a defender in the league. I really do. I think he's just really freaking big he's not like mobile, but he's mobile for how big he is. And you know, if he's the guy who played the second half of the season at UConn, I think he's my second favorite player who's likely to be there at 7. I don't love it. I wouldn't be excited about this pick, but I'm being honest with you at what I would do. I would probably take Clingan if he's on the board. If the Blazers, all things being equal, you come up and there's no Stephon Castle and there's not sort of some obvious other names like Alex Sarr didn't fall or whatever. Like, I think Clingan would be my guy at 7. I wouldn't like full Neil Olshey and tell you that he's going to be, you know, the cornerstone of the franchise for 10 years like Neil did when he drafted Zach Collins. But I would be comfortable with him being an NBA player for a long time. After that, I think I have 3 names: Cody Williams, Machas Buzelis, and then a drop off to Ron Holland. Those are for 7. Cody Williams, I just worry that a dude who wasn't maybe super aggressive on offense and isn't a high level rebounder, but is like 6'8", it's like, do you play like a 2? But you know, if he hits, like I said, he can dribble. He can score off the dribble. He shot on really low volume. If he shoots at a high volume and continues to, he shot 40% on really low volume. Say he shoots 36%, but on much higher volume. That's good enough to be a totally okay shooter in the league. Then you add in his off the dribble game. You add in his potential defensive versatility. I just worry that the frame isn't there. It's going to take him a while to be physical enough to play his natural position, which is probably like mostly 3 and a little bit of 4, plus size of the 3. I think is probably his best spot. And then it's like, can he shoot? And if he can't shoot, what does he do? And if he's not a high level passer, not a high level rebounder, like, are you just drafting like Jerami Grant light? Jerami Grant at 7 will be a pretty good pick, but it doesn't get you super excited. I've kind of warmed and cooled on Cody Williams, but he's my next one. Buzelis, it's like, He's a long way away, but he has tools, right? I think he's probably a 4, but he's got some defensive upside. Probably like maybe he's a high level defender in the league and not much of an offensive player, but he's got some end-to-end ball handling transition skills at his size, which I think is really intriguing. Someone who can dribble, who can grab and go at his size is money in the modern NBA. I just think he has a lot of things. He has a lot of boxes to check to get there. So, and then Holland, like I think Holland's going to be competitive and a pretty good player. It's like, he might be role playery though, because he just might not have enough offense. But there's a chance that the talent is there and that the G League stink. Just like it kind of is holding him back a little bit. I'll say this: none of the G League Ignite guys have come in their rookie years and been like way better. They haven't like said like, the G League wasn't a great environment for me, but I'm way better than that. They just haven't been that. Kuminga wasn't, Jalen Green wasn't, Scoot obviously wasn't. So I'm a little like. Maybe I'm soured on it a little bit, but I don't love Holland. So Stephon Castle's my dream pick. Donovan Mitchell's my realistic pick. And then after that, Cody Williams, Maciej Buzelis, Ron Holland. 14, assuming you don't pick Klingon, assuming you go with your dream pick, I think my pick at my 3 names at 14 that I like, in order, Kel'el Ware, Tristan da Silva, Nikola Topic. Kel'el Ware is he's just like another one. If he hits, right? He blocks shots. He shoots threes. He's a mobile, rim protecting, outside shooting big man. That might be what you need in the modern NBA, right? Like that's the space that you need. I think a shooting big would be perfect to pair next to Scoot. A shooting big who blocks shots and has a little bit of that has athleticism to do, not just to play a little bit of defense in space, or at least like be mobile enough to not get blown by, so he can be at the rim in the right spot. He's obviously like, there's questions about his motor and how hard he plays, and I believe that's a skill. Some guys have it, some guys don't. But like at 14, you're looking for upside, and I think his skill set is an upside that really intrigues me. So Ware would be my pick. After that's Da Silva, lower ceiling, but I'm really confident in he does enough stuff well that I'm confident in him being an NBA player. If you're hoping that other guys pop like Buzelis and Holland to reach the status where they can be a playable NBA player, Da Silva's already much closer to that, and I think he could be a contributor much earlier in his career. Obviously, he doesn't have the upside because he doesn't have the physical gifts to be what they are, but he just does a lot of stuff well, and I like him. Kel'el Ware, Tristan da Silva. And then 3, I just can't stop being intrigued by Nikola Topic. I can't. A 6'6" guard who can get to the rim and can really pass. Maybe the best passer in the draft, maybe just one of the best offensive players in the draft in terms of like ability to get to the rim in a pro level league, ability to make plays. Obviously, the ACL injury is a big deal, and like I don't know his medicals or anything like that, and who could know? But like he's so young. And I like big point guards. And I think that the upside is there for him, like a big playmaker who, and again, I believe shooting, give me the other skills and let you work on shooting, as opposed to he can shoot, but he doesn't do anything else. Like give me the other skills. And Topic has the other skills, and he's big, 6'6", like he's short arms. I think it's 6'6" arm span. Like he's a little T-Rexy, but like if you like Delano Banton, can I interest you in an 18-year-old Delano Banton, like a player that projects somewhat similarly, not this like crazy above the rim athlete, but a big guy who can get to the rim by like a big ball handler, get to the rim by using angles and can finish there and is a creative passer, which Banton is not. But like I cannot help but be intrigued by Topic. Those are my 3. Kel'el Ware, Tristan da Silva, and Topic at 14 in order that I would prefer right now. But Topic and Da Silva are very close. But Topic is such a weird fit with the Blazers. It's like another primary ball handler who can't shoot next to Scoot Henderson is kind of a nightmare. But I'm assuming that the Blazers are trying to get the best players on their roster. I think Topic could still have path to playing normal minutes because you could play them a little bit together or split up their minutes, and so he could get on the court and it wouldn't be that big of a deal. I don't think there's no path to him playing such that it would like kill his developmental his sort of developmental curve, and he might have to miss a good chunk or all of the season, and so it's something you're actually worried about next season's roster, which is far enough away that I would take the upside play. I'm into it. Those are my picks. Tell me if you like them or if you hate them in the comment section below on YouTube, or you can email me lockedonblazerspod@gmail.com. Come back for tomorrow's show. More draft stuff, more draft talk. It's the week of the draft. The next show you listen to will be Wednesday's show, the morning of the NBA draft. It's here. It's upon us. Get excited. I appreciate you listening. Tell your friends about the program. 5 shows a week on all platforms, free wherever you get podcasts, and also on YouTube. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.